Hey everybody, how you doing today? It's lulzPIE, and we are going to sit down and have a pretty serious conversation about some issues that I have today. So, we are going to go back in time to mid-late November 2013. Yeah, so that was what, like 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 years ago. Damn, it's been that long. Alright, so, mid-late November 2013. I'm living my life. I'm working at a restaurant. Uh, no, actually, I was unemployed at the time. Right? Yeah, I was unemployed. I was not working. Um, I wake up one morning, and I'm left-handed, by the way. And for some reason, I'd lost. I had no strength in my left hand. Nothing. Like I couldn't make a. I could move my fingers and my hand and everything, but I couldn't make a fist. Like I could close it like this, but I could not squeeze. I couldn't pick anything up. I couldn't write or anything. And I'm 24. I'm young. I don't think anything of it. I'm like, you know what? I must have just slept on it weird or something, and it'll go away. And it did. Like 2 days later, it went away. And stupid me, I didn't think of anything of it at the time. Fast forward a little bit to late December, and I want to say it was a day or two after Christmas. I wake up and I notice this little white spot in my vision, and I'm like, what the? It's not going away. I'm like, all right, it's in my left eye, which is the same side that my hand went bad. I'm like, what the hell is that? There's just this little white dot in my vision, and it's not going away. All right. I'd slept in my contacts, and I'd figured, okay, my contacts messed something up, so I took them out, put my glasses on. I'm like, all right, I'll wait this out, and maybe it'll go away. Boy, how wrong I was on that. So, I fast forward a couple more days, and it's just getting worse every day, and it comes to the point where most of the vision of my left eye is gone. Like I can see probably about like the bottom half of my eye is blind. Top half is okay for the most part. So I'm like, all right, it's New Year's Eve. I'm like, all right, look, I got to go to the hospital, guys. I got to figure this out. So I go to the hospital, and I'm talking to the nurse in the ER, and she's like, all right, well, there's a few things that this could be. She does some tests. We do a basic vision test, like, hey, read this card over here. And, she checks my eyesight with, the flashlight, checking pupil dilation. And she's like, okay, your eye's working perfectly fine. So we are going to, they called around. The next day was New Year's Day, so, nobody was open. But they finally got a hold of an optometrist. That's an eye doctor, right? Did I have the right word? Who was about an hour away, who would come in the next day to run some tests, to do some vision tests to see if he can figure out what it is. Because they didn't want to, use their big, heavy, large machinery and waste a lot of money if it was something smaller than that. So I head out the next morning. I go early morning. I have my dad drive me because they said he was going to dilate my eyes. So I'm sitting here. I'm pretty much practically blind in my left eye at this point. He dilates my eyes, and then while we're waiting for them to completely dilate, he gives me all this paperwork to fill out. I'm like, dude, are you serious? I'm blind in my left eye, and you dilate my right eye. I can't read any of this. Like, the words were so blurry. I had to, sitting here struggling to figure out where it works. I couldn't read anything, so I ended up accidentally filling out the insurance paperwork wrong, and they sent me collections notices for a but eventually they stopped, so they gave up. I think. I hope. I have shit credit if you haven't figured that out. So he runs all their tests, and he's like, all right, so I'm pretty sure your optic nerve is swollen. It's called optic neuritis, but you're going to have to go back to the hospital. I'm going to give them a call, tell them you're on your way. You're going to have to get an MRI. They're going to have to scan your brain and your eyes and see if that's what it is. So I'm like, all right, that sounds fun. So my dad drives me to the hospital. I get a MRI, which is not fun. If you don't know what an MRI is, basically it's kind of like a CAT scan. You lay on this little slab, and it takes you back into the machine. It's real enclosed. It's real tight. If you're claustrophobic, you're not gonna like it. And I basically sat in there for 45 minutes to an hour, just hearing all these bangings and clanking noises going on as they scan my brain. And then they come back with the results. They're like, "Yep, it's definitely optic neuritis. We're gonna run a couple more tests on you. We're gonna have you talk to a neurologist, and we're gonna keep you in the hospital for 3 days, and just constantly IV drip steroids, antibiotic steroids into you to try and clear it up, try and get the swelling to go down, and hopefully your eyesight comes back 100%." So, I'm in the hospital for 3 days. I ended up talking to a neurologist that I couldn't understand because he was like very heavy accent, like Middle Eastern guy. I went and saw him 6 months later, since it was, July 3rd when I got out of there, or January 3rd. I mean, July is when I went back to see him. It was like a week before I went to see him in his office. It happened again. I wake up one morning, partial eyesight loss. So I'm like, all right, go back to the hospital. I explain to them, like, hey, this just happened 6 months ago. It's happening again. Did an MRI. They're like, yep, you got optic neuritis on both eyes this time. Great. So they shove an IV in my arm. They give me a dose of steroids. They're like, okay, you're gonna go home with the IV in your arm. Come back tomorrow and the day after. Come back for the next 2 days. You're gonna go to infusion services, and they're gonna give you steroids, and you're gonna go back home. Like, okay. So at this point, I've got a 1-year-old running around my house. I got this freaking IV sticking out my arm. That was fun. So that comes and goes. They finally take it out. My appointment comes. He's like, all right, so I'm talking to the neurologist. He's like, chances are you have multiple sclerosis. I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard of this. I have no idea what it is. I didn't tell him that because I couldn't understand a damn thing he was saying. He's like, all right, so I'm going to have you come back next week. We're going to run some tests. You're going to get a spinal tap, which is not fun. It hurts like a motherfucker. Basically, you get a needle like this long shoved in the base of your spine. They take some fluid out and test it. Oh my god, that hurts. And I had to go to work the next day too. So test results come back. He's like, yep, you have MS. I'm like, oh, well, that's lovely. And by this point, I'd done research into it when he said that was the biggest culprit, the most likely culprit for all the problems I've been having. And I'm not going to sit here and go through all the symptoms. I'll leave some links to some real, like, I'll leave some links to websites down below that link all the symptoms and everything, because the list is a mile long. The problem with MS is it's a case-to-case basis. Like, everybody's case is different. Like, I could get MS, person next to me can have MS, and we won't have the same symptoms at all. As far as my symptoms, my biggest issue is fatigue. I am always tired. Always. Like, I wake up in the morning. I could have just, I've tried sleeping so many different ways. I've tried getting, 6 hours of sleep. I've tried 8 hours. I've tried 10. I've tried 12 hours. No matter how long I sleep, I'm always tired. Like, 70% of the day. I'm just sitting there, just struggling to stay awake. And it's just a constant fight, and I spend half the day just like this, on the couch sleeping. And I hate it. I really do, but there's not much I can do. I take medication. I go in every 28 days to my local hospital, spend 2 hours in the hospital getting an infusion done. They give me my medicine. I usually feel good for about 3 weeks, and the last week beforehand is pretty bad. But, so there's the fatigue. On top of that, I get real bad brain fog, which is pretty much, imagine you are in Silent Hill. All the fog and everything. You can't see jack shit. That is how my brain feels. It's sitting there, and I'll sit there and fish for a word or a thought. I'll be mid-sentence talking to somebody, and I'll just lose my train of thought, or I'll just sit there and start stammering, trying to get out the word I was trying to say, and I'll just lose it. And it sucks. It really does. And then it'll be like, 2 hours later, I'm like, that's what I was thinking of. That's always how it is. And it's like, when you have an argument with somebody later, you're like, yeah, I should have said this. Yeah. Ugh. But, there's so many other symptoms that I have with it. Some are more minor. Like, I've definitely lost a lot of my strength over the last few years. I've had it for over 6 years now. I've lost a lot of strength. It just sucks. It really does. I am on my third Actually, no. I've had 3 neurologists so far. When I go back to the office that I'm at right now, I'm getting a new one because the one I had moved away. So this is going to be my 4th neurologist. But the first guy I was talking about, the one with the heavy accent, he told me within 20 years I would be blind. Which, he tells me that, I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. Great. Really looking forward to the future. Big chance that I will probably lose the ability to walk, at least easily. And I think it's something like people with MS, their life expectancy is shorted by like 15 years, something like that. And I'm left-handed, that's like another 10 years. So, I'm like supposed to die 25 years before I'm supposed to. Yes! So, I'm just trying to make what I can out of my life while I can. So, if there's ever a time where, I make a video and I just do not seem into it, it's not that I'm not into it, it's just that I'm fucking exhausted. Or if I ever need to just take a break for a week, it's not because I'm getting tired of doing it, I'm upset about something. It's mostly because I just didn't have the time to, make videos or edit or something because I was just too exhausted. That's my biggest thing, is just I'm constantly exhausted. And sometimes I'll have a good day where I feel great. I get all the things done. I do everything I wanted to do. And the next day I will feel like shit and pay for it. Like my joints will hurt, my muscles will hurt, my nerves will hurt. Like if you can find some decent pictures of MRIs for people who have MS, basically from the base of my brainstem going all the way down to the bottom of my spine, it's just scars. Like I have scars on my brain, I have scars going all the way down my spine, all the way down to the base. My neurologist said, I just recently had an MRI done about 5-6 months ago, and she was like, all right, so looks like you haven't really accumulated many new scars, but you have a lot of scarring at the bottom of your spine. So yeah, I don't know, there is no cure. Apparently Canada has found a cure, but I haven't really heard much about that recently, and no one really knows what causes it. And it just happens. It's not hereditary, but children of somebody who has MS just have a little bit more likely chance of getting it. But hopefully my kids aren't unlucky like me. Men have a higher chance of having it than females. It's just, privilege. Well, that's enough grim talk for me today. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. So I'm posting this on Friday, which means by next Monday we'll be back to the gaming. Awesome. I just felt like doing something a little different this week. So thanks for anybody who stuck around and watched them all. Shared some awesome, funny, scary stories. And, if you want to talk about anything, I'm always here. I always see when comments come through, and I try and reply to them all. It's every once in a while, though, you get the one that's a little spammy. Like, even if you don't intend it, the system will think it's spammy and filter it out. And I won't see those until I get on my laptop. But, all right. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you all next time.